My entire family chose my sister Irish's engagement party over my Harvard graduation, the moment I'd worked 7 years to reach. They said it was just a ceremony, that I'd understand family priorities. But what they discovered at that party made them realize they'd destroyed something they could never get back, and the person I became afterwards? They didn't recognize me at all. Want to know what Irish's fiancé revealed that night that made my mother fall to her knees? I'd love to know which corner of the globe you're watching from. And if this story speaks to you, make sure to subscribe. Tomorrow's video is one you absolutely can't miss. The email came on a Tuesday morning in April, exactly 6 weeks before commencement. I was in my studio apartment in Cambridge, the one with the window that overlooked the Charles River, surrounded by stacks of legal briefs and half-empty coffee cups that had become my constant companions during my final semester at Harvard Law. Congratulations, Marianne Moore. You have been selected as one of 3 students to deliver remarks at this year's Juris Doctor commencement ceremony. I read it 3 times. My hands were shaking so badly I had to set my phone down on the desk, next to the framed photo of my grandmother, the only family picture I kept in my apartment. She'd been a seamstress in Philadelphia, working 16-hour days to put my father Edward through community college. She died when I was 15, but not before making me promise I'd be the first in our family to get a graduate degree. "You're gonna be something, Marianne," she'd told me in her hospital room, her voice barely a whisper. Something they can't ignore. I grabbed my phone again and dialed home to Newark. My mother Nicole answered on the 4th ring, and I could hear the television blaring in the background, one of those reality shows she'd been obsessed with lately. "Mom, turn down the TV. I have incredible news." The volume lowered slightly. "What is it, honey? Make it quick. This is the elimination episode." I took a breath, trying to contain the tremor of excitement in my voice. "I'm giving a speech at graduation. They chose me out of my entire class. 3 people total, Mom. 3 out of 560 students." Silence. Then, "Oh, that's wonderful, sweetheart. Listen, your father wants to talk to you about something. Edward, pick up the phone." The familiar click of the extension. My father's voice, gruff and distracted. "Marianne, your mother said you got some award?" "I'm speaking at my graduation, Dad. It's not just an award. This is the highest honor they give to law students. Judges will be there. Partners from every major firm in Boston. This could change everything for my career." "That's great, kiddo. Really great. Listen, we need to discuss graduation, actually." Something in his tone made my stomach clench. "Discuss what?" "Well, there's been a development with an Irish engagement party. Trevor's parents, the Carmichaels from Greenwich, they can only do that Sunday in May, the 22nd. And it's going to be at their estate, one of those big to-dos. His father's a Connecticut state senator, Lots of important people will be there." I looked at the Harvard commencement invitation on my desk. May 22nd, $2 p.m. "Dad, that's my graduation day." I know. But here's the thing. Irish only get engaged once. "Well, hopefully." He chuckled at his own joke. "And the Carmichaels are talking about a wedding at their beach house in the Hamptons. This is a big deal for our family, Marianne. Your sister's marrying into serious money. Old money." My mouth had gone dry. "I'm giving a speech, Dad. Did you hear what I just said? I'm one of 3 students chosen. And we're very proud of you." My mother's voice cut in from the other line. "But sweetheart, graduations happen every year. How many times does your sister get engaged? We need to support her. This is about family." I stood up, pacing the small apartment. "I've been working toward this for 7 years. 4 years at Princeton, 3 years here. You've never even visited me in Cambridge." "That's not fair, Marianne," my father said, his voice hardening. "You chose to go to these expensive schools so far away. We supported that choice. But we're not rich people. We can't just drop everything and travel whenever. Newark is 4 hours away by car." 4 hours. "And you've never come. Not once in 3 years. We sent you money for books," my mother said, defensive now. "And we've been very understanding about you not coming home for holidays because of your studies. But this is different. This is the Irish's future we're talking about. Her happiness." I thought about all those holidays. Thanksgiving spent in the library. Christmas in my apartment with Chinese takeout and case files. Spring breaks working as a research assistant while my classmates went to Cancun. I'd told myself it was worth it, that they'd understand when I graduated with honors. When I gave my speech, what about my future? What about my happiness? Don't be dramatic, my father said. You're getting your degree either way. Whether we're there or not doesn't change that. But if we miss the Irish's engagement party, especially to the Carmichaels, it sends a message that we don't value this union, that we think we're too good for them. And what message does it send to me? My brother James grabbed the phone then. I could hear the scuffle. Mari, come on. Be reasonable. The Irish have been planning this for weeks. Mom already bought a new dress. Dad rented a tux. The whole family's going. Cousins, aunts, uncles. Even Aunt Patricia's flying in from Chicago. Everyone's going to an engagement party, but no one can come to my Harvard graduation? It's not like that, James said, but his voice lacked conviction. It's just bad timing. And honestly, the Irish need this. She's been really stressed about Trevor's family accepting her. They're kind of, stuffy, old money types. This party is basically her audition to be part of their world. And what about my world? What about the world I've been building? Your world is already built, my mother interjected. You're graduating from Harvard Law. You don't need us there to validate that. But Irish, she needs her family beside her. She's the baby. She's always been more sensitive. The baby. Irish was 26 years old, 3 years younger than me. But in our family's eyes, she'd always be the baby. The pretty one. The social one. The one who dated the right kind of men and went to parties and knew how to make people like her. I was the serious one. The studious one. The one who didn't need attention or praise or validation because I got it from my grades, my achievements, my success. At least that's what they'd always told me. So let me get this straight, I said, my voice eerily calm now. Everyone, Mom, Dad, James, the extended family, everyone is choosing an engagement party over my graduation. My Harvard Law graduation where I'm giving a speech. When you say it like that, you make it sound worse than it is, my father said. We're not choosing one over the other. We're just being practical. Irish's party is a once-in-a-lifetime event. Your graduation ceremony is just a formality. Just a formality. 7 years of 90-hour weeks. 7 years of student loans that would take me 2 decades to pay off. 7 years of sacrificing relationships, social life, sleep, health. 7 years of proving I was more than the mediocre expectations they'd always had for me. Just a formality. Okay, I said quietly. Okay? My mother sounded relieved. Oh, Marianne, thank you for understanding. You've always been the mature one. The Irish will be so happy you're not making this difficult. I need to go. I have a study group. We love you, honey. And we'll celebrate your graduation when you come home. We'll have a nice dinner. Maybe Olive Garden. I hung up. Without saying goodbye, the apartment was silent, except for the sound of traffic on Memorial Drive. I looked at my reflection in the darkening window, a 29-year-old woman who'd spent her entire adult life chasing a dream that her family considered a formality. My phone buzzed. A text from Irish. OMG, Mom told me. Thank you so much for being cool about this. Trevor's parents are so impressed we're all coming. You're the best big sis ever. I deleted the message without responding. Then I opened my laptop and began typing an email to Dean Morrison, the head of student affairs. Subject line: change of plans for commencement speech. If they thought my graduation was just a formality, I'd show them what a formality really looked like. But first, I needed to make sure that on May 22nd, at exactly 2 p.m., I'd be standing on that podium at Harvard's commencement. And they'd be watching a live stream from a Connecticut mansion, finally understanding what they'd chosen to miss, what they were about to lose, who I was about to become. Because sometimes the person who's always been understanding needs to stop understanding. And sometimes, when your family shows you who you really are to them, you need to believe them the first time. A lot of love and effort went into bringing this story to life. If you're enjoying it, we'd be so grateful if you'd subscribe to our channel. Now, back to where we left off. The phone rang again. My father. I let it go to voicemail. In the window's reflection, I didn't recognize the expression on my face. It was something new, something cold and determined and a little bit terrifying. It was the face of someone who'd just stopped being the family's afterthought and started being something they could never ignore again. Dean. Morrison's office smelled like old leather and expensive coffee. She was a woman in her early 60s with silver hair pulled back in a tight bun and the kind of sharp eyes that had evaluated thousands of law students over her career. When I walked in that Wednesday morning, she gestured to the chair across from her mahogany desk. "Marianne, I got your email. Sit." I sat, my leather portfolio balanced on my knees. I'd spent all night preparing for this conversation, rehearsing every word like I was arguing before the Supreme Court. "I want to make a proposal," I began. "About the commencement speech." Dean Morrison leaned back in her chair, steepling her fingers. "I'm listening. I'd like to deliver it via video, pre-recorded, high-quality, professional production. It would be shown on the main screens during the ceremony, giving the audience a cinematic experience they wouldn't get from a live speech." Her eyebrows rose slightly. "That's unconventional. May I ask why?" I'd prepared for this question too. I've been offered an opportunity to present a paper at the International Law Conference in Geneva. Same day as graduation. It's a career-defining moment. My research on corporate accountability and climate litigation has caught attention from some major environmental law firms. The timing is unfortunate, but the conference only happens once every 3 years. It was a complete lie. There was no conference. But I'd learned something important in law school. The best lies are the ones people want to believe. And Dean Morrison wanted to believe that her star student was so in demand that she had to choose between 2 prestigious events. She was quiet for a long moment, her fingers still steepled. "Your speech was going to address overcoming systemic barriers to legal education. It's powerful, personal. The live delivery would have a significant impact, and it still will. But imagine the production value we could add with video, graphics showing the statistics I cite, B-roll footage of communities affected by legal inequity, interviews with first-generation law students. We could make it something that goes viral, that brings attention to Harvard and the issues I'm addressing." I watched her face carefully. The word viral had done its job. I saw the flicker of interest in her eyes. "Universities loved good press. You'd cover the production costs?" "Every penny. I have a friend who works in documentary filmmaking. She owes me a favor." Another lie. But I'd figure it out. Dean Morrison turned to her computer, typing something. "The other 2 speakers won't be happy about this. They might see it as grandstanding. Then don't tell them it was my idea. Tell them the administration decided to try something innovative. 1 pre-recorded speech, 2 live ones. See how it plays with the audience." She almost smiled. "You're going to make an excellent litigator, Marianne. You know exactly which arguments will win." She turned back to me. "Fine, you have approval. But the video needs to be submitted to my office no later than May 15th for review. And it better be as good as you're promising." "It will be. Thank you, Dean Morrison." I stood to leave, but she called me back. "Marianne, whatever's really going on, I hope it's worth it." I met her eyes. "It is." Walking back across Harvard Yard, I felt a strange mixture of exhilaration and dread. Phase 1 was complete. Now I needed to actually produce a professional quality video with money I didn't have and skills I'd never learned. My phone buzzed. Another text from the Irish. "Mom wants to know your dress size for the engagement party pics. She's hiring a photographer. This is going to be so perfect." I stopped walking, standing in the middle of the yard as students rushed past me to their classes. The spring air smelled like freshly cut grass and possibility. Somewhere a professor was teaching constitutional law. Somewhere students were debating ethics and justice and the rule of law. And I was standing here plotting revenge against my own family. Was I really doing this? I thought about my grandmother's face in that hospital room, the way she'd squeezed my hand. "Don't let them make you small, Marianne." "Don't ever let anyone make you small," I texted the Irish back. "Size 6, can't wait." Then I opened my contacts and scrolled to a name I hadn't called in months. Derek Chen. We'd dated briefly in my second year. He was a film student at Boston University, passionate about documentary work and social justice stories. We'd broken up amicably when his career took him to New York, but we'd stayed friendly. He answered on the second ring. Marianne Moore, this is either a drunk dial or you need something. Which is it? I need something. And I'm prepared to pay. Now I'm intrigued. Talk to me. I explained the situation, most of it anyway. The speech, the need for professional video production, the tight timeline. I left out the part about my family and the engagement party. He didn't need to know my motivations. So you want a cinematic commencement speech that'll make people cry and share it on social media, he said when I finished. In 3 weeks. Yes. That's insane. I know. I love it. I could hear the grin in his voice. I'm in. But I'm not taking your money. This goes in my portfolio, and you write me a recommendation letter for the Sundance Fellowship I'm applying for. Deal. Meet me at my studio in Brooklyn this Saturday. Bring your speech draft and your game face. We're going to make something that Harvard will be talking about for years. After we hung up, I sat on a bench near the law school library and finally let myself feel it. The weight of what I was doing. This wasn't just about making a video. This was about proving something to myself. That I mattered. That my achievements deserved recognition. That I wasn't just the responsible daughter who could be counted on to step aside for everyone else's priorities. My phone rang. My father again. This time I answered. Marianne, thank God. You've been avoiding our calls. I've been busy, Dad. Final exams, graduation prep. You know, formalities. He missed the edge in my voice. Right. Listen, your mother and I were thinking, after the Irish's party, maybe we could drive up to Boston for a few days, see your apartment, take you to dinner. Kind of a belated graduation celebration. That would be nice. Really? He sounded surprised. You're not mad anymore? I was never mad, Dad. I understand. Family priorities. Exactly. See, I knew you'd get it. You've always been the mature one. Irish, she's more emotional. She'd have made this whole thing into a drama. But you understand how life works. I do now. Great. So we'll see you at the party then? The Irish really want you there. She's texting you, right? She is, and yes, I'll be there. I won't miss it. The lie tasted like copper on my tongue. Perfect. Your mother will be thrilled. Oh, and Marianne? We really are proud of you. You know that, right? Sure, Dad. After he hung up, I sat there for a long time, watching students come and go from the library. A group of undergrads was taking photos in their caps and gowns, probably seniors doing a pre-graduation shoot. They were laughing, their families crowding around them. Everyone beaming, I turned away. That Saturday, I took the train to New York. Derek's studio was in Bushwick, a converted warehouse space he shared with 3 other filmmakers. The walls were covered in film equipment, and there was a green screen set up in one corner. Okay, let me see what we're working with, Derek said, pulling up a chair. I handed him my speech draft. He read it silently, his expression growing more serious with each page. When he finished, he looked up at me. Marianne, this is brutal. In the best way. You're basically calling out every institution that claims to value diversity while maintaining systems that keep people like us out. Like us? First-generation students. People whose parents didn't go to college, let alone law school. This speech isn't just inspirational bullshit. I'm angry. Is that a problem? No, it's perfect. But I need to know, are you really ready to say this? Because once this video goes out, you can't take it back. You're putting a target on your back with every law firm and judge who's part of the old guard. I thought about my family at that engagement party, toasting Irish and Trevor, celebrating a union with old money people who would probably never accept them anyway. Forgetting for those few hours that I even existed. I'm ready. Derek grinned. Then let's burn it all down. We spent the next 3 weeks working obsessively. Derek brought in a cinematographer friend who owed him a favor. We shot footage at community centers in Brooklyn and the Bronx, interviewing first-generation college students about their struggles. He filmed me delivering portions of the speech in different locations: the subway, a laundromat, outside a public housing project. Places that represented the world I came from, the world Harvard pretended to care about. The speech itself became sharper with each revision. Derek pushed me to cut the diplomatic language, the careful hedging that law students are taught to use. "Say what you mean," he kept telling me. "Stop protecting their feelings," so I did. I talked about the partner at a major firm who told me during a callback interview that I didn't have the right background for their corporate practice. The professor who suggested I might be more comfortable in public interest law. The classmate who asked if I was really qualified for law review or if it was an affirmative action thing. And I talked about my family. Not by name, but anyone who knew me would understand. "The biggest barrier isn't always external," I said into the camera, my voice steady. "Sometimes it's the people who are supposed to love you most. The ones who treat your ambition like an inconvenience. Your success is like a threat. Your dreams are like a formality." Derek watched the monitor, nodding slowly. "That's the one. That's the take we use." By May 14th, we had a final cut. 12 minutes of raw, unfiltered truth set to a haunting piano score that Derek's composer friend had created. It was beautiful and devastating and nothing like any commencement speech Harvard had ever seen. I submitted it to Dean Morrison's office with shaking hands. She called me 2 hours later. "Mary Ann, come to my office, now." Dean Morrison didn't invite me to sit this time. She stood behind her desk, arms crossed, the video paused on her computer screen. My face was frozen mid-sentence, mouth open, eyes blazing with something that looked like fury. "This," she said, her voice dangerously quiet, "is not what we discussed." I stayed standing near the door. "It addresses everything I said it would. Systemic barriers, first-generation students, legal inequity. It's a manifesto. A declaration of war against the very institutions that will hire these graduates. Against the judges who will preside over their cases. Against the system they're about to enter." She turned the monitor toward me. "You name specific firms. You call out practices that, while ethically questionable, are perfectly legal. You've turned a commencement speech into a hit piece. I've turned it into the truth." "The truth?" She laughed, sharp and humorless. "Mary Ann, you're too smart to believe there's such a thing as objective truth in law. There are arguments, evidence, perspectives. And what you've created here is a perspective that will alienate half the legal establishment in Boston." "Good." She stared at me for a long moment. Then she sat down heavily in her chair, suddenly looking every one of her 63 years. "What happened to you? 3 weeks ago, you were a model student. Respectful, diplomatic, strategic. Now you're—" She gestured at the screen. "This," I thought about telling her. About the phone call, the engagement party, the way my family had reduced 7 years of sacrifice to just a formality. But what was the point? She wouldn't understand. People who came from families that celebrated their achievements never understood. "Maybe this is who I always was," I said instead. "Maybe I was just too afraid to show it before." Dean Morrison rubbed her temples. "I should pull this. Replace it with one of the alternate speakers." "You could, but you won't. And why is that?" "Because it's brilliant and you know it. Because in 10 years, people won't remember the other 2 speeches, but they'll remember mine. Because Harvard loves to pretend it's progressive and boundary-pushing, and this actually is. And because—" I stepped closer to her desk. "You've built your entire career on being the person who takes chances on unconventional students. The dean who sees potential where others see risk. If you pull this speech, you're admitting you were wrong about me." She held my gaze. "You're gambling with your entire career. You understand that? The partners I've called on your behalf, the judges I've recommended you to, this video will reach all of them. Some will admire your courage. Most will see you as a liability, a troublemaker. Then I'll find work with the ones who admire courage. It's not that simple. It never is." I picked up my bag. The speech stays, or I withdraw from graduation entirely and release the video independently. "Your choice, Dean." I walked out before she could respond, my heart pounding so hard I thought I might pass out in the hallway. I'd just threatened a dean. Burned a bridge with one of the most powerful people in legal education. My phone buzzed with another text from the Irish. 1 week. Mom wants to know if you can come early to help set up. Trevor's mom is being so particular about everything, LOL. I texted back. Sorry, can't. Last-minute graduation stuff. See you there. The lies were getting easier. That night, I met Derek at a bar in Cambridge. He ordered us both whiskey neat, so? He asked. What did the dean say? She hated it. But she's going to show it anyway. I think. I had a long drink. Derek, what if I'm making a huge mistake? What if I'm throwing away my career before it even starts? He shook his head. You're not. You know why? Because the legal system needs people like you. People who are willing to call out the bullshit. The ones who got into law for the right reasons, not just for the money or the prestige. And if no one hires me? Then you start your own practice. You fight for people who can't afford the fancy firms. You become exactly the kind of lawyer this country actually needs. He raised his glass. To burn bridges. I clinked my glass against his. To burn bridges. The next 5 days passed in a blur. Final exams I barely studied for but somehow passed. Packing up my apartment. Fielding increasingly anxious calls. From Dean Morrison's office asking for minor edits, to the video that I politely declined, and texts from Irish. So many texts. Can't. Believe you'll finally meet the Carmichaels. Mom's so nervous, LOL. Trevor's sister is flying in from Paris. She's a fashion editor. So fancy. Dad got his tux tailored. He looks so handsome. We're taking family photos before the party. Each message was a small knife between my ribs, but I kept responding with enthusiasm and kept playing the role of supportive big sister. Because if I was going to do this, if I was really going to miss that party, I needed them to believe everything was fine until the moment it wasn't. May 21st arrived. The day before graduation. The day before the engagement party. I was in my empty apartment. My few belongings already shipped to the storage unit I'd rented in New Haven. I'd accepted a position at a legal aid clinic in Connecticut. Starting in July, my phone rang. James. Hey. Mari. Just checking. You're driving down tomorrow morning, right? The party starts at 2, but Mom wants everyone there by noon for photos. My graduation ceremony started at 2? The exact same time. Actually, James, something came up. Silence. Then, what do you mean something came up? A work thing. For the clinic in New Haven. They need me to come in, meet the team, sign some paperwork. It's last minute, but I can't reschedule. Marianne, you can't miss this party. I know. I feel terrible. Tell the Irish I'm so sorry. I'll take her out when I'm back and celebrate properly. This is insane. You're really going to skip your sister's engagement party for a work orientation? The irony wasn't lost on me. It's just bad timing. No. His voice hardened. This is you being selfish. Punishing the Irish because we couldn't make your graduation. That's what this is really about. My hand tightened on the phone. Is it selfish when I do it, but practical when you do it? That's different and you know it. The Irish's engagement party is a family event. Your graduation... He stopped himself. Go ahead. Say it. My graduation is what? It's just you, Mari. It's about you and your achievement and your success. The engagement party is about all of us. About family. About coming together. Right. Family. The thing I'm apparently not really part of. Don't be dramatic. You're part of this family. You're just not the center of it. Not everything is about you and your fancy degrees. Something inside me went very still and very cold. You're right, James. Not everything is about me. In fact, nothing ever has been. I hung up. 30 seconds later, my mother called. I didn't answer. Then my father. Then Irish. Her call followed immediately by a text. Mari, please pick up. James told me you're not coming? This is my engagement party. You have to be there. I turned off my phone. That night, I barely slept. I kept imagining the next day. My family getting dressed in their formal wear, driving to the Carmichael estate in Greenwich. The mansion with its manicured lawns and old-money elegance. Irish in whatever expensive dress she'd bought for the occasion, holding Trevor's hand. introducing everyone to his senator father and fashion editor sister, and me, standing on Harvard's campus in my cap and gown, watching my video play on massive screens while 500 graduates and thousands of family members bore witness to my truth. Two different worlds. Two different versions of success. They'd chosen which one mattered. Now I was choosing two. At 6 a.m. on May 22nd, I got dressed in my graduation regalia. The black gown, the crimson hood, the cap I'd decorated with a small pin, my grandmother's, a tiny silver seamstress's thimble. I looked at myself in the mirror of my empty apartment. "You're gonna be something," I whispered to my reflection. Something they can't ignore. My phone, now turned back on, was flooded with messages. 43 texts, 17 missed calls. 3 voicemails. I listened to one voicemail, my mother's voice shrill with panic. "Marianne Elizabeth Moore, you call me back right now. We are at the Carmichael's house and everyone is asking where you are. The Irish are crying. You're humiliating us, call me." I deleted it. Then I opened my email and sent one final message to my entire family. "If you want to see me graduate from Harvard Law, the ceremony will be live-streamed at 2 p.m. Link below. Sorry I can't be at the party. Work obligations. You understand." I hit send. Then I walked out of my apartment, got into my car, and drove to Harvard Yard. It was time to show them what a formality really looked like and what it cost them to miss it. Harvard Yard was transformed. White chairs arranged in perfect rows across the lawn, a massive stage erected near Memorial Church, screens positioned at strategic angles so everyone could see. Families were already arriving, cameras ready, flowers in hand. The air buzzed with excitement and the particular brand of pride that comes from watching someone you love achieve something extraordinary. I stood at the edge of it all, watching parents hug their children, siblings taking selfies, grandparents wiping away tears. A knot formed in my throat, but I swallowed it down. I'd made my choice. They'd made theirs? Marianne Moore? A student volunteer with a clipboard approached me. "You're one of our speakers. You need to check in backstage." Backstage was a white tent where the other 2 speakers were having their robes adjusted and their speeches reviewed one last time. Jessica Fan, who'd be speaking about immigrant rights. Marcus Washington, whose speech focused on criminal justice reform. Both brilliant. Both kinds. Both looking at me with expressions I couldn't quite read. "So you're the mysterious one," Jessica said, her tone carefully neutral. "The video speech. Dean Morrison won't tell us anything about it." "It's about access to legal education," I said. "Barriers for first-generation students." "Must be quite a video if it needs to be pre-recorded," Marcus said. There was an edge to his voice. "Some of us are just doing it the old-fashioned way, live, no safety net." Before I could respond, a production assistant called for Marcus. He walked away without another word. Jessica lingered. "He's just nervous." "We all are. This is the biggest moment of our lives. I know. Do you?" She studied my face. "You seem somewhere else. Like you're not even here." She was right, of course. Part of me was in Greenwich, Connecticut, imagining my family at the Carmichael estate. Were they reading my email? Had they clicked the live stream link? Or had they dismissed it, too caught up in the party to care? "I'm here," I told Jessica. But we both knew it was a lie. The ceremony began at 2 o'clock sharp. The procession of graduates, the speeches from university officials, the recognition of honors. I sat in the speaker section, my phone on silent in my pocket, feeling its weight like an accusation. I hadn't checked it since arriving. Didn't want to know if anyone had responded to my email. Finally, Dean Morrison took the podium to introduce the student speakers. She looked directly at me as she spoke. "Our first speaker is Marianne Moore, who has chosen to deliver her remarks through a filmed presentation. Ms. Moore's speech addresses the challenges facing first-generation law students, and I encourage you to listen with open hearts and minds. Some of what you hear may be uncomfortable, but growth rarely comes from comfort, a warning, or an endorsement. Maybe both." The screens flickered to life, and there I was. 10 feet tall, my face filling the massive displays. The cinematography was stunning. Derek had outdone himself. The opening shot showed me standing outside a public housing project in the Bronx, wind catching my hair. "They tell you law school is the great equalizer," my recorded voice began. "That if you're smart enough, work hard enough, want it badly enough, you can sit in the same classrooms as the children of senators and CEOs. They tell you merit matters. They tell you the playing field is level. Cut to footage of Harvard's campus. Students in expensive clothes carrying designer coffee cups. They're lying." I could feel the tension in the audience. Cameras that had been casually recording were now focused intently on the screens. Parents shifted in their seats. Even the graduates, who'd heard countless speeches about justice and equality, seemed caught off guard by the directness. The video continued, each segment more pointed than the last. I named the firm that told me I didn't have the right background, showed statistics on how few first-generation students made it to partner at top firms, interviewed a scholarship student who'd dropped out because she couldn't afford to take an unpaid summer internship, and then came the section I'd almost cut. The personal part. "The biggest barrier isn't always the institution," my voice said on screen. "Sometimes it's the people closest to you. The ones who tell you they're proud but never show up. Who treat your sacrifices like inconveniences and your achievements like formalities." The camera pushed in close on my face. "They'll choose a party over your graduation. They'll pick someone else's happiness over your once-in-a-lifetime moment. And they'll expect you to understand. To be mature. To put family first." I could see people in the audience turning to look at their own children, holding their hands a little tighter. "But here's what I learned," the video continued. "Your family doesn't get to define your worth. Your achievements aren't less important because you're the responsible one, the independent one, the one who doesn't need validation. And when people show you that you're not their priority, you don't have to keep making them yours." The final segment showed me back at Harvard, standing in front of the law school library. So to my fellow first-generation graduates, you did this alone. You'll probably have to keep doing it alone. But alone doesn't mean worthless. It means strong. It means you know exactly what you're capable of. And that's something no one can ever take from you. The screen faded to black. For a moment, there was complete silence. Then the applause started. Not polite, scattered clapping, but a roar that seemed to shake the ground. Graduates were on their feet, some crying, some shouting. Parents joined them. I saw mothers clutching their children, fathers wiping their eyes. Jessica grabbed my hand and squeezed it. Even Marcus was clapping, his earlier resentment apparently forgotten. But I barely registered any of it. Because my phone was buzzing in my pocket, continuously, violently. The ceremony continued with Jessica's speech, then Marcus's, then the awarding of degrees. I walked across that stage, shook hands with the dean, and accepted my diploma. The physical proof of 7 years of work. Just a formality, my father had said. It felt like the heaviest thing I'd ever held. After the ceremony ended, as families flooded onto the lawn for photos and celebrations, I finally checked my phone. 67 new messages. I scrolled through them, my heart hammering. Irish. "I can't believe you sent us that link. Today of all days. You're so selfish. James. Your little stunt just ruined the party. Mom's having a breakdown. Hope you're happy, my father. Call me immediately. We need to talk about this." And my mother. "How dare you? How dare you humiliate us like this? Everyone at the party saw your speech. Everyone knows you were talking about us. Trevor's parents think we're terrible people. You've destroyed Irish's day. Your own sister. I don't even know who you are anymore." But there was one more message, from a number I didn't recognize. "Ms. Moore, this is Catherine Carmichael, Trevor's mother. I watched your graduation speech. I need to speak with you urgently. It concerns my son's engagement to your sister. Please call me at this number as soon as possible." My hands went numb. Trevor's mother? What could she possibly want? "Marianne?" Derek was pushing through the crowd, camera in hand. "You did it. People are crying. I've already got 3 media outlets asking for interviews about the speech." "Derek, I need to make a phone call. Now?" This is your moment. Look around. You're a hero to half these people. But I was already walking away, finding a quiet spot near the science center. I dialed Catherine Carmichael's number with shaking fingers. She answered on the first ring. Ms. Moore, thank you for calling back so quickly. Mrs. Carmichael, I'm sorry if my speech caused any disruption to the party. Don't apologize. Her voice was crisp, educated, the kind of accent that came from old money and older traditions. Your speech was remarkable, honest, and it made me realize something I should have seen months ago. She paused. Ms. Moore, I need to tell you something about my son's engagement to your sister. Something your family has a right to know. The world seemed to tilt slightly. What do you mean? Not over the phone. Can you come to Greenwich? Tonight, I'm in Cambridge, and it's my graduation day. I understand. But this cannot wait. Your sister is about to make a terrible mistake, and based on your speech, I suspect your family won't listen to you if you simply tell them what I'm about to share. They need to hear it from me. Her voice softened slightly. Please, Ms. Moore, I know I have no right to ask this of you, but I watched that video. I saw what it cost you to tell your truth. Now I need to tell mine. I looked back at Harvard Yard, at the celebration I'd worked 7 years to reach. Derek waved at me to come back. At the graduates taking pictures with their families, their faces glowing with joy and accomplishment. My graduation day. My moment. I'll be there in 3 hours, I said. Because apparently, even on the day I was supposed to put myself first, I still couldn't stop being the person who cleaned up everyone else's messes. The question was, what mess was I about to walk into? And would my family finally see me as something more than the reliable one they could always ignore? The drive from Cambridge to Greenwich should have taken 3.5 hours. I made it in 2 and 45 minutes, my cap and gown still in the passenger seat, my diploma resting on top like some kind of ironic trophy. Derek had tried to stop me. Mari, you're leaving your own graduation celebration to go deal with your family's drama? After everything they did to you? It's not about them, I'd said, though I wasn't sure that was true. Trevor's mother sounded scared. Something's wrong. Something's always wrong with families like that. Old money, old secrets. But he'd hugged me anyway. Call me if you need backup. I can be there in 2 hours. Now, as I pulled up to the Carmichael estate, I understood what he meant about old money. The house, no mansion, sat on what had to be 10 acres of manicured lawn. White columns, sweeping driveway, actual topiaries shaped like swans. This wasn't just wealth. This was generational, institutional, the kind of money that came with expectations and obligations and secrets. The engagement party was clearly over. Catering vans were pulling away, workers breaking down white tents on the lawn. A few luxury cars still dotted the driveway, but the celebration had ended. I parked my beat-up Honda Civic between a Mercedes and a Tesla, feeling suddenly very aware of my rumpled appearance. I hadn't even changed out of the dress I'd worn under my graduation gown, a simple navy sheath from Target that had cost $40. Before I could reach the front door, it opened. Catherine Carmichael stood in the doorway, and she was nothing like I'd imagined. I'd pictured someone cold, imperious, dripping with diamonds. Instead, she was in her late 50s, elegant but understated, wearing a cream blouse and slacks. Her face was lined with something that looked like genuine distress. Ms. Moore, thank you for coming. She stepped aside. Please, come in. The interior was exactly what you'd expect. Marble floors, oil paintings of stern-looking ancestors, furniture that probably cost more than my entire education. But Catherine led me past all of it, through a hallway to a small study that felt more human. Books lined the walls, family photos cluttered the desk. A half-finished crossword puzzle sat on a side table. Please. Sit? She gestured to a leather armchair, then sat across from me, her hands folded in her lap. I imagine you're confused, and probably angry at me for pulling you away from your celebration. Confused is an understatement. Your message said something about the Irish making a mistake. Catherine took a deep breath. Your sister seems like a lovely young woman. Kind, enthusiastic, clearly devoted to my son. But she doesn't know him. Not really. And neither does your family. I'm not sure I understand. Trevor is engaged to someone else. The words hung in the air like smoke. I stared at her, certain I'd misheard. What? Not officially. Not legally. But morally, emotionally, yes, he's engaged. To a woman named Sophie Laurent. They've been together for 6 years. She lives in Paris, works as a curator at the Louvre. She's been waiting for him to finish establishing his career here in the States before she moves to join him. My mouth had gone dry. Then what is Irish to him? A convenience. A cover. Catherine's voice cracked slightly. Ms. Moore, Marianne, my son is not a good man. I've tried to deny it for years, but your graduation speech today, it forced me to face some truths I've been avoiding. She stood, walking to the window that overlooked the lawn where, just hours ago, my family had been celebrating the Irish's future. Trevor is ambitious. Ruthlessly so. His father is a Connecticut state senator with aspirations for higher office. In our circles, image is everything. And for the past few years, Trevor's been living a life that doesn't align with the image we need to maintain. Sophie, I said. Sophie is brilliant, accomplished, beautiful. She's also the daughter of Algerian immigrants. Her father drives a taxi in Paris. Her mother cleans houses. Catherine turned to face me. In the world we inhabit, that matters. Trevor's father made it very clear. If Trevor wanted financial support for his own political career, he needed to marry someone with the right background. The right family, the right image. The pieces were falling into place, each one more sickening than the last. So he found Irish. Your sister is perfect for what he needs. American-born, no complicated background, attractive, social. She'll photograph well at campaign events. She'll say the right things to the right people. And she clearly adores him, which makes her easy to manage. Does the Irish know about Sophie? No, and Trevor has been very careful to keep it that way. Sophie thinks the engagement is just for show, that he'll call it off once his father's re-election campaign is over. Irish thinks she's found her fairy tale. And Catherine's voice broke. I've been too much of a coward to say anything because I didn't want to embarrass my family. Didn't want to admit I'd raised a son capable of this level of deception. I thought about Irish texts over the past weeks. Her excitement, her nervousness about impressing the Carmichaels, her joy at being welcomed into this world of old money and power. She had no idea she was just a prop in someone else's political theater. Why tell me now? Why not tell the Irish directly? Because I did try, an hour ago after the party ended. I pulled her aside and tried to explain gently that perhaps she and Trevor should take more time before rushing into marriage. That they barely knew each other. Catherine's laugh was bitter. Your mother overheard. She accused me of trying to sabotage the engagement because I thought Irish wasn't good enough for our family. Your father threatened to sue me for defamation. And Irish? She told me I was just a bitter old woman who couldn't stand to see her son happy. So you called me. I called you because your speech today told me you were someone who valued truth over comfort. Someone who'd already paid the price for standing up when no one else would. She pulled her phone from her pocket. And because I have proof, she showed me the screen. Text messages between Trevor and Sophie dated from last week. Planning her move to Connecticut. Discussing how they'd handle the situation with the Irish once the election was over. Referring to my sister as the placeholder and useful for now. I felt sick. There's more. Catherine swiped to another conversation. This one was between Trevor and his father. Read the one from this morning, Senator Carmichael. The engagement party went well. The Moore family is appropriately grateful and impressed. This should lock in the moderate suburban vote your mother's been worried about. Trevor. The sister is a problem, though. She didn't show. Apparently, I graduated from Harvard Law today and made some scenes with a speech. Senator Carmichael. The lawyer's sister? We researched her. First-generation students with no family money took out massive loans. She's nobody. Don't worry about her. Trevor. Irish keeps trying to call her. I want her to be the maid of honor, Senator Carmichael. Then make sure she is. We need the whole family looking united for the photos. Have the Irish bring her to the next campaign event. Show we value education and merit, all that nonsense. I looked up at Catherine. They researched me? Standard opposition research. They do it for anyone who might impact the campaign. She took her phone back. I'm sorry. I know this must be devastating to read, but I wasn't devastated. I was furious. Not just for Irish, though that was part of it, but for all the times I'd been dismissed as nobody. All the times my achievements had been treated as less important than someone else's party, someone else's happiness, someone else's needs. What do you want me to do with this information? Tell your family. Show them these messages. Make them see what Trevor really is before Irish makes a decision she'll regret for the rest of her life. Catherine's eyes were pleading. I know you have no reason to help me. No reason to put yourself in the middle of this mess. But that speech you gave today, about people showing you who you really are to them, Irish deserves to know who Trevor really is. My phone buzzed. Another message from my mother. I don't know what Trevor's mother told you, but you stay away from this family. You've done enough damage today. Where is my family now? I asked. They left about 30 minutes ago. Went back to their hotel in Stamford, I believe. They're driving home to Newark tomorrow morning. Catherine hesitated. Marianne, I should warn you, they're very angry. Your speech was, well, it was broadcasted at the party. We had the graduation live stream playing on screens in the garden so guests could watch if they wanted. Most people ignored it at first, but then they heard what I said about family. Yes, and everyone understood you were talking about them. Your mother left in tears. Your father was making excuses to anyone who would listen. Irish locked herself in the bathroom for 20 minutes. It was uncomfortable. Good, I thought. Let them be uncomfortable. Let them feel a fraction of what I felt when they chose this party over my graduation. But then I thought about the Irish in that bathroom, crying. Not because she understood what she'd done to me, but because she was embarrassed. Because I'd humiliated her in front of Trevor's family and friends. She had no idea the real humiliation was what Trevor was planning to do to her. Send me those screenshots, I said, standing up. All of them. Every message, every conversation you have that proves what Trevor's doing. Catherine's face flooded with relief. You'll tell them? I'll do better than that. I'll make sure Trevor can never use my sister, or anyone else, as a political prop again. I headed for the door, then turned back. Mrs. Carmichael, why didn't you stop this sooner? Before the engagement, before my family got invested? She looked down at her hands. Because I'm a coward. Because I've spent 30 years in a marriage built on appearances rather than truth, and I didn't want to admit my son learned those values from me. But your speech today, watching you stand up and tell the truth even when it cost you everything, it made me realize I can't stay silent anymore. Your silence already cost plenty. My sister's heart, my family's dignity, my graduation day. I know. And I'm sorry, truly. She walked me to the door. For what it's worth, your speech was extraordinary. You're going to be someone important in this world, Marianne. I hope your family realizes that before they lose you completely. I drove away from the Carmichael estate as the sun was setting, painting the Connecticut sky in shades of orange and red. My phone was full of Catherine's screenshots. Evidence of a betrayal my sister didn't even know was coming, and I had a choice to make. I could show the Irish the truth, blow up her engagement, prove that I'd been right all along. She'd be devastated. My family would probably find some way to blame me anyway. But at least she'd be free of Trevor before he could do more damage, or I could stay silent. Let Irish figure it out on her own whenever Sophie showed up or Trevor got careless. Let my family deal with the consequences of the choices they'd made. Let them learn, the way I had, that sometimes the people who claim to love you are really just using you. My phone buzzed with a text from Derek. Tell me you're okay. I pulled over at a rest stop and called him back. When he answered, I could hear music and laughter in the background. He was still at the celebration. Mari. Where are you? Connecticut. Long story. Derek, I need your advice. Always. What's going on? I told him everything. The messages, Trevor's deception, Catherine's confession. When I finished, he was quiet for a long moment. "What does your gut tell you to do?" I looked at my diploma, still sitting in the passenger seat. 7 years of work. 7 years of being the responsible one, the mature one, the one who put family first even when family put me last. My gut tells me to let the Irish figure it out herself, that I don't owe her anything after today, but she's still my sister. And if I let her marry Trevor knowing what I know, I'm no better than Catherine Carmichael. Silent when I should have spoken. "So you're going to tell her." "I'm going to try. Whether she listens or not is up to her." I hung up and sat in that rest stop parking lot for another 10 minutes, watching cars come and go, families on their way to somewhere important. And I thought about my grandmother's words one more time. Don't let them make you small. Telling the Irish the truth wasn't about being big or small. It wasn't about revenge or redemption. It was about looking at myself in the mirror tomorrow and knowing I'd done the right thing, even when the right thing was hard, even when it meant helping people who'd never helped me. I started the car and headed for Stamford. One more confrontation. One more truth to tell, and then, finally, I could start living for myself. The Marriott in Stamford was nice, but not extravagant, the kind of hotel my family would choose, balancing comfort with cost. I found them listed under my father's name at the front desk, though the clerk wouldn't give me their room number until I called my mother, and she grudgingly agreed to see me. "Room 438, the clerk said, eyeing my wrinkled dress and the graduation cap I was still holding. "4th floor." The elevator ride felt like descending into a battlefield. My heart hammered against my ribs, my hands clammy around my phone where Catherine's screenshots waited like ammunition. I'd rehearsed what to say a dozen times during the drive, but now, standing outside room 438, every planned word evaporated. I knocked. My father opened the door. His tuxedo jacket was off, tie loosened, and his face was a storm of emotions I couldn't quite read. Anger, definitely, but something else too. Shame, maybe, Marianne. His voice was flat. "You have 5 minutes." The hotel room was a suite. My parents had splurged, probably to impress the Carmichaels. My mother sat on the couch, still in her designer dress, her eyes red and swollen. James stood by the window, arms crossed, and Irish was curled up in an armchair, her engagement ring catching the light, her face blotchy from crying. No one invited me to sit. "Well?" My mother's voice was acidic. "Come to gloat? To see what your little stunt accomplished? I came because Trevor's mother called me. She told me something you need to hear." "We don't need to hear anything from you," James snapped. "You humiliated us today. That speech, everyone knew you were talking about us. Irish in-laws think we're terrible parents. They're not her in-laws yet. And if I have anything to do with it, they never will be." Irish's head snapped up. What's that supposed to mean? I looked at my sister, really looked at her. She was beautiful in that dress, her hair professionally styled, makeup perfect. She looked like someone playing dress-up in a life she didn't understand. And she had no idea she was the only one who didn't know it was all pretend. Trevor is engaged to someone else. The words landed like a grenade. For a moment, no one moved. Then the Irish laughed, high and sharp and bordering on hysterical. "You're insane. You're actually insane. You're so jealous of my happiness that you'd make up lies. Her name is Sophie Laurent. She lives in Paris. They've been together for 6 years." I pulled out my phone. Trevor's mother gave me proof. "His mother?" My father's voice was sharp now. "Catherine Carmichael put you up to this? She's trying to save the Irish from making the biggest mistake of her life. Someone in this family should care about that. Don't you dare." My mother stood, her finger pointing at me like a weapon. "Don't you dare lecture us about caring for the Irish. We've been supporting her, celebrating with her, while you've been playing the victim because we couldn't attend one ceremony." "Read the messages." I thrust my phone toward the Irish. "Look at what your fiancé says about you when you're not around." The Irish didn't take the phone. She sat frozen, her eyes wide, her hands clutching the arms of the chair. "You're lying." "Trevor loves me," he proposed. "We're getting married next summer at his family's beach house. You're a political prop." My voice came out harder than I intended. Trevor's father is running for re-election. They needed someone with the right image. Someone grateful and manageable. Someone who wouldn't ask too many questions. Stop it. The Irish's voice cracked. Stop trying to ruin this for me. I'm trying to save you from ruining yourself. I moved closer, crouching in front of her chair so she had to look at me. Irish, please. Just look at the messages. If I'm wrong, if I'm lying, you'll know. But if I'm right, you're not right. You're jealous, but her voice wavered. You've always been jealous because I'm the pretty one, the fun one. Because people actually like me. This isn't about jealousy. This is about Trevor texting his real fiancée 3 days ago, planning how to handle the situation with you once his father's election is over. The room went very quiet. My mother sank back onto the couch. James moved away from the window, his expression shifting from anger to something else. Concern, maybe. Or fear, my father spoke, his voice careful. Let me see the phone. I handed it to him. He scrolled through the screenshots, his face growing paler with each swipe. Then he passed it to my mother without a word. She read in silence, one hand covering her mouth. This could be faked, James said, but he sounded uncertain now. Photoshopped or something. Call Catherine Carmichael and ask her yourself. Better yet, call Trevor. Ask him about Sophie. I looked at Irish, who was staring at the floor now, tears streaming down her face. Or you could ask him why he researched my background like I was a political opponent. Why his father's text messages refer to locking in the moderate suburban vote through your engagement. The Irish made a sound somewhere between a sob and a gasp. No. This isn't real. Trevor wouldn't. Trevor would. My mother's voice was hollow. She was still staring at my phone. Oh, God. Irish baby, I think she's telling the truth. No. The Irish stood suddenly, stumbling toward the bathroom. You're all crazy. All of you. Trevor loves me. She didn't finish. Just slammed the bathroom door behind her. The silence that followed was suffocating. James sat down heavily on the edge of the bed. My father rubbed his face with both hands. My mother continued staring at the phone, tears now running down her cheeks. How did you get these? My father finally asked, Trevor's mother. She watched my graduation speech. It made her realize she couldn't stay silent anymore. Your graduation speech. My mother looked up at me, her face crumpling. The one we missed because we were at a party celebrating Irish's engagement to a man who's been lying to her from the beginning. I didn't say anything. I didn't need to. The irony was clear enough. I need to call the Carmichaels, my father said, standing. Get to the bottom of this. Dad, you have the bottom. It's right there in those messages. Trevor was using Irish. The engagement was never real. Then why? James's voice was raw. Why go through all of it? The proposal, the party, meeting us? What was the point? Optics, image, political strategy? I picked up my phone from where my mother had set it down. To people like the Carmichaels, relationships are transactions. The Irish looked good on paper. She made Trevor look like a regular guy who fell for a regular girl. Not like the calculating politician's son he actually is. My mother stood and walked to the bathroom door, knocking softly. Irish, sweetheart? Can you come out? We need to talk about this. No answer. Just the sound of muffled crying. Irish, please. My mother's voice broke. Baby, I'm so sorry. We should have been more careful. We should have questioned. She stopped, pressing her forehead against the door. We should have listened to Marianne. Those words hung in the air like smoke. James looked at me, really looked at me, for the first time since I'd arrived. My father sat down again, his shoulders slumped in a way I'd never seen before. Your graduation, my mother whispered, still facing the bathroom door. We missed your Harvard graduation. Where you gave a speech. Where you... She turned to look at me. Where you told the truth about us. I told the truth about myself, I corrected. About what it feels like to have your family treat your accomplishments like they don't matter. They do matter. My father's voice was thick. Your achievements, your speech, your degree, it all matters. We know that. Do you? Because from where I'm standing, it looks like you knew the Irish's engagement party mattered. That mattered enough to show up for. That's not fair, James said. We didn't know Trevor was lying to her. We thought we were supporting something real. And my graduation wasn't real? My 7 years of sacrifice weren't real? No one had an answer for that. The bathroom door opened. Irish stood there, her face ravaged by tears, mascara streaking her cheeks. She looked at me with an expression I couldn't read. "Show me," she said quietly. "The messages. I need to see them myself." I handed her the phone. She scrolled through slowly, methodically, her face growing more devastated with each message. When she reached the texts about me, about Trevor calling me nobody, and his father dismissing my Harvard degree as that nonsense, she stopped. "He called you nobody," she whispered. My sister, who just graduated from Harvard Law, who gave a speech that made thousands of people cry. She looked up at me. "And I almost married him." "You didn't know?" "I should have known. I should have questioned why someone like him wanted someone like me. Why did his proposal come so fast? Why was he always checking his phone, taking calls in private?" Her hands were shaking, but I didn't want to see it, because for once I was the successful one, the one with the perfect life, the one everyone envied. "Irish, you were right in your speech about family showing you who you really are to them." She wiped her eyes, smearing her makeup further. "I showed you exactly who you were to me today. Less important than a party, less important than my fake engagement to a man who was using me." My mother made a sound like something breaking. "We all showed you. We all chose wrong. So what now?" James asked, his voice small. "Do we tell Trevor we know? Confront the Carmichaels?" I looked at my family, broken, ashamed, finally seeing what they'd been too blind to notice before. Part of me wanted to leave them there, drowning in the consequences of their choices. The same part that had sent that email with the live stream link, that had walked away from my own graduation celebration. But there was another part. The part that had driven here instead of staying in Cambridge. The part that was still, despite everything, trying to protect them. "No confrontation," I said. The Irish sent Trevor a text. Simple and clean. "I know about Sophie. The engagement is off. Don't contact me again." Then she blocks him. "That's it?" My father looked shocked. "We just let him get away with this?" He didn't get away with anything. Irish is free. Trevor loses his political prop. Catherine Carmichael has to live with knowing she enabled her son's behavior. Everyone suffers their own consequences. I moved toward the door. That's how this works. Actions have consequences, even for families. "Wait." My mother's voice stopped me. "Don't go, please, stay and talk to us. About today, about the speech, about everything we missed." I turned to face them, my family, the people who'd raised me, loved me in their way, and still managed to make me feel invisible. "I can't," I said quietly. "Not tonight. Tonight, I need to go back to Cambridge and celebrate the fact that I graduated from Harvard Law, that I gave a speech that mattered, that I became something, even if you weren't there to see it." "Marianne," my father started. "But tomorrow," I continued, "if you want to drive to Cambridge, I'll show you my apartment. The one you never visited. I'll show you the library where I spent 3 Christmases studying. The places that became my real home because I couldn't come back to you." I looked at each of them. "And maybe, if you're willing to listen, I'll tell you about the person I became while you weren't paying attention." The Irish stood, wobbling slightly. She crossed the room and threw her arms around me, sobbing into my shoulder. "I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry." I hugged her back, feeling her shake against me. "I know. I was so mean to you. So selfish. And you still came here to warn me, to save me from making the biggest mistake of my life." "That's what sisters do," I said. "Even when it's hard. Even when it costs us everything." She pulled back, looking at me with red, swollen eyes. "Your speech was beautiful. I watched it at the party. And I knew, everyone knew, you were talking about us. And I was so embarrassed, so angry, but you were right. About all of it. I know," I said again, because I did know. I'd been right. About the family dynamics, about the way they'd dismissed me, about the cost of always being the responsible one. But being right didn't make it hurt any less. I left them there in that hotel room. Irish still crying, my parents holding each other, James staring at nothing. Left them to figure out what came next for the Irish, for Trevor, for all of them. And I drove back to Cambridge, where Derek and a handful of classmates were still celebrating at a bar near campus. They cheered when I walked in, graduation cap still somehow in my hand. "The conquering hero returns," Derek shouted, shoving a drink into my hand. "How was the family drama?" "Catastrophic," I said. "And necessary. That's the Marianne Moore I know." He raised his glass. "To burn bridges and build new ones." I drank to that. To bridges burned and families broken and truths that cost everything to tell. And to the strange, painful freedom of finally putting yourself first, even when no one else will. 3 months later, I stood in the cramped office of the New Haven Legal Aid Clinic, reviewing case files for a tenant rights dispute. The air conditioning was broken again, and the August heat made the small space feel like a sauna. My desk was buried under manila folders, sticky notes, and half-empty coffee cups. It was nothing like the sleek corporate offices where most of my Harvard classmates had ended up. It was perfect. "Marianne, you've got a visitor." My supervisor, Linda Chen, poked her head through the door. "Says she's your sister?" I looked up, surprised. Irish stood in the doorway, looking uncertain in a sundress and sandals. She'd cut her hair shorter, and something about her face looked different. Lighter, maybe. Less desperate to please. "Irish, what are you doing here?" "I was in the area. Thought I'd see where the famous Marianne Moore works." She smiled tentatively. "Can I take you to lunch?" We ended up at a small Vietnamese restaurant 2 blocks from the clinic. The kind of place with plastic chairs and incredible food that cost less than $10 a plate. Irish looked around with genuine interest, not the fake enthusiasm she used to deploy at fancy restaurants with Trevor. "So," she said after we'd ordered, "how's the world-changing legal work going?" Slowly, frustratingly, but it matters. I took a sip of iced coffee. Last week, we stopped an eviction for a single mother with 3 kids. Her landlord was trying to kick her out illegally. She would have been homeless. "That's amazing, Mari. It's what I'm supposed to do." I studied her face. "How are you, really?" She pushed her foe around with her chopsticks. "Better, worse, different." She looked up. "Trevor tried to contact me last month, through a mutual friend. Said he wanted to explain." "What did you tell him?" "Nothing. I blocked the friend too." She laughed, but it didn't quite reach her eyes. "Mom keeps asking if I want to start dating again. Like I can just jump into another relationship after finding out my engagement was a political strategy. You don't have to rush anything." "I know. That's what my therapist says too." "You're seeing a therapist?" "Yeah. Started in June. Figured if I was going to unpack all my issues with seeking validation from men, I should probably get professional help." She paused. "Your speech kind of triggered that realization. The part about people showing you who they are." Our food arrived, giving me a moment to process this new version of my sister. The old Irish would never have admitted to needing therapy. Would never have sat in a cheap restaurant talking about emotional growth. "What about you?" she asked. "Are you happy here? With this work?" I thought about it. The small victories that felt enormous. The clients who looked at me like I was their last hope. The exhaustion that came from caring too much about people the system had forgotten. I'm satisfied, which might be better than happiness. Dad doesn't understand it. He keeps telling people you turn down offers from big firms to work for basically nothing. I make enough. And I don't have to defend corporations that pollute rivers or evict families. "Mom's been watching your graduation speech," Irish said suddenly, like over and over. She has it saved on her phone. Sometimes I catch her crying while watching it. I didn't know what to say to that. She wants to visit. They all do, but they're scared you'll say no. I told them they could come, back in May. And then things got complicated with Trevor, and everyone was dealing with that mess. And by the time things settled down, it felt like too much time had passed. Irish met my eyes. We're cowards, Mari, our whole family. We're really good at avoiding uncomfortable conversations. I've noticed. But I'm trying to be less of a coward. That's why I'm here. To say, she took a breath, to say I'm sorry. Really, truly sorry. Not just for the engagement party, though that was inexcusable, but for years of making you feel like your achievements didn't matter. Like you were just the responsible one we could ignore because you'd always be fine. Something tight in my chest loosened slightly. Thank you. You gave up your graduation celebration to save me from making a huge mistake. After everything we'd done to you. Her voice cracked. That's the kind of person I want to be. Someone who shows up even when it's hard, even when they've been hurt. We ate in silence for a few minutes. Then the Irish spoke again. I enrolled in community college, starting next month. Business administration. I looked up surprised. Really? Really. I spent my whole life thinking I needed to marry well instead of doing well. Your speech made me realize how messed up that was. She smiled, and this time it reached her eyes. I'll never be Harvard material like you. But I can be something. Something I built myself. Irish. That's incredible. Yeah, well, I have a pretty good role model. She reached across the table and squeezed my hand, even if I didn't appreciate her until it was almost too late. After lunch, the Irish walked me back to the clinic. Before she left, she hugged me tight. James wants to visit too. He's been dealing with his own stuff, guilt mostly. Realizing he was part of the problem. Tell him he can come. Tell all of them they can come. But on my terms. When I'm ready. Okay. She pulled back, wiping her eyes. I'm proud of you, Mari, in case no one said that lately. They haven't. Well, I am. Proudly, obnoxiously proud. After she left, I stood on the sidewalk for a moment, watching her walk toward the train station. My sister, it's different now. Maybe better. Maybe just more honest about who she'd always been. My phone buzzed. An email from Dean Morrison. Marianne, thought you'd want to know. Your commencement speech has been viewed over 2 million times online. We're getting letters from first-generation students across the country saying it inspired them to apply to law school. Whatever your intentions were that day, you've created something that matters. I hope you know that. Victoria, 2 million views. Letters from students. Impact beyond anything I'd imagined when I'd stood in Derek's Brooklyn studio, angry and hurt, and determined to make my family see me. I thought about my grandmother, working 16-hour days so my father could go to college. About all the sacrifices that had led to this moment, mine, hers, everyone who'd come before me and decided their children deserved better. You're gonna be something, she'd told me. I finally was. Not because my family recognized it, though they were starting to. Not because I had a prestigious job or impressive title, but because I'd told the truth when it was hard. Because I'd stood up even when standing up meant standing alone. Because I'd become the person I needed, not the person they'd expected. That evening, I sat in my small apartment in New Haven, 1 bedroom, terrible water pressure, but it was mine, and opened my laptop. I started drafting an email to my family. I've been thinking about your visits. Here's what I need before we can move forward. I spelled it out. Honestly, clearly, without apology, the boundaries I needed. The acknowledgement I deserved. The way our relationship would have to change if it was going to continue at all. It wasn't angry. Wasn't meant to punish. It was simply the truth, delivered with the same clarity I'd learned to use in court. I hit send before I could second-guess myself. Then I opened another email. This one from Catherine Carmichael, sent 2 weeks ago. I'd been avoiding responding. Marianne, Trevor, and Sophie's relationship imploded spectacularly. He tried to juggle both women and lost both. He's dropped out of politics entirely. I thought you'd want to know your sister's heartbreak wasn't for nothing. And I wanted to say thank you. For having the courage I lacked. For protecting someone you had every right to abandon. You reminded me what integrity looks like. Catherine, I replied simply, tell your son actions have consequences. Tell Sophie I'm sorry she was caught in his lies. Tell yourself that courage isn't about grand gestures. It's about showing up when it matters. You did that eventually. That's worth something. My phone rang. My mother. I stared at it for 3 rings, then answered. Marianne? Her voice was tentative. I got your email. Already? I've been refreshing my inbox every 10 minutes for weeks, hoping you'd reach out. She laughed shakily. I know that's pathetic. It's not pathetic. We want to meet your terms. All of them. Whatever you need from us, whatever boundaries you have to set, we'll respect them. She paused. We just want to know our daughter again. The one we lost somewhere along the way. You didn't lose me, Mom. You forgot to look for me. I know. And I'm so sorry. We talked for an hour. Really talked, for the first time in years. About my work, her regrets, the ways we'd both failed each other. It wasn't comfortable. It didn't fix everything. But it was honest. And honest was a start. When we hung up, I sat in the gathering darkness of my apartment, too tired to turn on the lights. Tomorrow I had court at 9, 3 client meetings, and a motion to file. Next week my family will visit. The week after that, I was speaking at a symposium about access to justice. My life was full of complications, confrontations, uncomfortable truths that needed telling. It was nothing like the neat, respectable life my family had imagined for me. It was exactly the life I'd built for myself. I walked to my desk and picked up my diploma, still in its frame. Ran my fingers over the embossed letters. Harvard Law School. Marianne Elizabeth Moore. My phone buzzed one more time. Derek, congrats on the 2 million views. Your speech is officially viral. Also, Documentary Fellowship wants to interview you about first-gen law students. Interested? I texted back. Always. Then I set my phone down, looked at my reflection in the darkened window, and smiled, because I'd learned something important over these past months. Something worth all the pain, all the confrontation, all the bridges burned and rebuilt. You don't need your family to attend your graduation for it to matter. You don't need their approval for your achievements to be real. You don't need their validation to know your worth. You just need to show up for yourself the way you wish they'd shown up for you, and sometimes, if you're lucky, if you're brave, if you're willing to tell uncomfortable truths, they eventually learn to show up too. Not because you demanded it, but because you finally taught them what showing up actually means. I turned on the lights, made a pot of coffee, and got back to work. Tomorrow, I'd save someone else who needed saving. Tonight, I'd remember that I'd already saved myself, and that was enough. Looking for more? We've got 2 amazing stories ready for you right on screen. If this one touched you, these are absolutely worth your time. Click to watch them now. And hey, subscribe and hit that bell to never miss our latest uploads.